Alright, so we're coming right along. This is just an update. The doors, I'm about to rip that one apart, take all the hardware off of it. Take the latch out of that one. Sand down the tailgate. I'm going to take those bars off and sand them down. Probably put a little primer on them. They're covered with, I got brand new covers for all that. Got the tailgate, started the body work on it. It's got a dent up at the top. The back side of it, the fiberglass looks good. Got the two doors stripped. Starting to sand, got all the hardware off of both doors. Put my black hinges on just to hold the hood up. All the hardware is being replaced on the truck with this black rather than the factory painted stuff. So doors, tailgate, all that's brand new. Front end's sanded. This fender looks really good. It's got a little bit more sanding to do. This side, we're moving along, man. Got to take off the bars up top, sand them down. So I'm going to shoot them at the same time as the rest of the truck. So I took a minute to test fit my black hinges on the hood for a couple reasons. One, to see how they look, but two, to raise the hood up so I could finish wet sanding those fenders. And on eBay I bought a couple cheap tap and die kits so I could chase the threads. So before I installed the hood, I chased all the threads with the correct that one was actually 5/16 correct taps, so when the screws go in, they go in easily, they don't get stripped out, and so I can take them back out. When I install them permanently, I'll use just a little bit of anti-seize thread compound on them, just in case they ever have to come off again, or whoever gets it after I croak gets the Jeep. Who knows? But anyway, when you're putting your Jeep back together, it's a good idea to go ahead and rethread all the bolt holes, because they've been sitting out in the weather, they've been rained on, they were not in that great a shape, rusty from before, especially if you had a hard time getting them out. So if you clean out those threads, then it'll make it a lot easier installation and removal if you ever have to in the future. Okay, today I was going to just spend a minute talking about polyester glazing putty. Some people use Evercoat. This is an Eastwood product called Contour Glazing Putty, but this is basically exactly the same stuff. You can even tell that it's very similar in colors. You can use this. This is a pretty versatile product as far as being able to do body work. I like to add it into Bondo on that final coat to make it smoother, because this is a very, very smooth, very consistent product compared to some Bondo where you get pinholes and a couple things in that. The putty is good for filling those in. Now in addition to being able to add it to Bondo to make it smoother, the real purpose of this is to fill in like little pinholes, scratches, things like that as you're doing your body work. Now I've already primered the surface, but there is a spot that I needed to use some of my putty Evercoat to fill in. As I was wet sanding down this side here, I noticed that there was a couple little bitty gouges, many little bitty gouges in the surface as I was block sanding. Now you can see in the block sanding, this primer that we use, the 2K, man, it's cool. Before I use a guide coat in it, I can actually see, I hope you can see that, you can see those little kind of shiny and dark spots there. That has to be block sanded down, but I don't need to use guide coat on it yet, because I guarantee I have to do that. There's a little here. As you go down, then it gets smoother, and then that'll help you see the scratches. But I had a couple little gouges, and you can see that I used the polyester primer here. Those are little bitty little scratches or pinholes in there. So when I continue to block sand down, those are going to be reduced down to just the minute part. Now you just mix up just a little bit, and you put a very thin skim coat over those little marks, and that's really cool, because that way you can, and I don't usually, because there's such a small little dink, I usually don't just reprimer the whole thing, but you never know. It depends on how bad it comes out. If I need to reprimer, I will shoot one more coat and then block sand it. But holy moly, I'm trying to get done with this block sanding. These won't really hurt anything if it's just a little dimple. Hey, it's David from Redneck Garage. It's Saturday and it is freaking cold out here. It's down to about 50 degrees. I got up this morning and was doing some research on doing the bed liner. I'm trying to decide on how I want to do that. Finishing up the body work on the doors and the tailgate. We got a little bit of wet sanding to do, maybe a little priming, but overall it's going really well. And I'll just give you a few updates, keep you apprised of the Jeep situation, of what's going on. The situation is good. Okay, so got another little layer of skim coat on the Bondo for the doors and the tailgate. And when it warms up, I'll sand those down. Then we can shoot some primer on them. These will be easy to prime because it'll be a flat surface. Trying to decide, as I'm going through how we're doing this, I'm trying to decide on how I want to do the bed liner. Do I want to spray the inside of the doors? Do I want to do, how do I want to do that? So, working on that thing. The Jeep is wet sanded out really nicely for most of it. The bodywork looks good. Might need just a little primer in a few spots, like right at that Jeep right here where the hinge was. It was pressed in just a hair. Hey, buddy. So that looks fine. So on the bed liner, I'm trying to decide on how I want to do it after we get the paint on it. And I'm almost inclined to go right to that little inner rolled edge right there, and it'd be paint up to that section. But I haven't made up my mind. I've looked on YouTube and haven't found a lot of great videos on that. Back's about ready, so we're moving along. Time frame wise is hopefully this week get some paint on this sucker. Well, it's turned out to be a really pretty day. Bodywork sucks! Alright, I'm doing the bodywork on these doors and I'm getting pretty close. I got a couple little layers to put on and keep sanding down, and I'm hoping to get those in primer today. That would be nice to get those primered up. Okay, so just give you a heads up of where we're at, what we're doing, what's going on. Got the bodywork done on the doors. I've been wet sanding. It's raining crappy weather here in Nashville. Trying to finish wet sanding the tub. There's not much left there. I did use polyester primer on those because it had some bodywork on it, and I will say this. This is from TCP Global. Their polyester primer surfacer sprayed out twice as nice as the Evercoat did. Evercoat was just almost impossible to shoot. This thinned down about 10% with acetone, and it shot nicely and it filled in. It was incredibly thick. So if you're going to use that, TCP Global's is much better than the Evercoat. The side of the truck's looking really good. It's wet sanding down. I got just a couple little orange peel from the primer that needs to be sanded out, but it looks good. Front grille looks good. The biggest pain that I've had so far on these doors, besides the body work on them because they were bent up to heck, is around these door handles, man. Let me tell you, that is a pain in my rear end. There's all these little contoured curves, and so that was a pain. I spent maybe an hour on each one of these doors trying to get all this sanded out smooth where the door handles go in, but no biggie. So that's where we're at. What? Randy's here.
What?
What'd you say?
I said there were some birds living in your Jeep.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, they just
I got a bird for you. Those dogs are going crazy. Shut up! Stupid chihuahuas.
Really?
Were there some birds flying out, really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Look at all this bird shit.
That's not bird shit. That isn't bird. That's where it's been wet sanded. See where it comes through the hood there?
No, I mean, no.
He's being mean now. He was out of town all weekend.
Yeah, in Texas.
He was drunk. They found him passed out in the hotel room or something. That was not a Texas, let me ride a steer, that was a cold. Yeehaw! Bodywork's looking good though. What do you think, Rand?
Yeah. Got time to set up your booth.
I know, the redneck paint booth. He's my engineer on that. He's a sound engineer and a redneck paint booth engineer. Okay, so that's the end of the update video. I'm still working on the doors. They need another coat of primer. As you get closer to the end, you'll notice that I'm wearing gloves in a lot of these videos. That's because my hands are cracking up, not because I'm a girl, Jerry. The dusty Bondo and the water was causing my fingers really to get so dried out they were cracking. So I had to start wearing gloves just to keep that from happening. But when you get to the end and you start doing your final wet sanding, You want to make sure that you're not wearing gloves, that you're actually going over every spot that you can with your hands to feel for imperfections, roughness, and you'll find if you where you thought you caught it, you need to go through and do that as you're getting close to the end, and that's where we're at. And hopefully Randy and I will get the plans for the Redneck paint booth, get that thing constructed. Maybe Friday or Saturday we can put paint on this thing. Got to get the doors finished, and I got to finish the wet sanding around the cowl and the sides. But that's all I got really to report today. David from Redneck Garage. I'm getting close.